Hi, everyone, and welcome to Total Education with Neil. I am the host of it, and I'm so excited to be back on television. I wish I could do this every week, but at least we're doing it once a month right now. But who knows? With the popularity internationally now, with another international television station picking us up, we're very, very excited. And for my local audience, remember you can listen to me on Fridays at 4:30 Eastern on 88.3 FM in Pittsburgh, and Saturdays on 1080 AM WWNL at 3 p.m. with Jarrett. But I'm so excited to bring back my co-host now to TV as well, Jarrett. Jarrett, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, Neil. Glad to be a part of the show. You know, it's actually amazing to see. We're not always sure what direction we're going to go in, but we're always moving forward, and that's really the very exciting part of what we've been doing for these last 4.5 years.
I mean, honestly, it's such a surprise in so many ways of where we're going, what's the next direction, how I'm trying to create some interaction. One thing we're looking to do is create a Facebook fan page for Bethel Park's television show, so that the TV show will have all the links up and posts every week giving updates of what's going on and what we're going to talk about each month with a theme. So our theme for today, which I'm so excited about, is back to school. And Jarrett, you know, back to school, it's a very, very happy time for some people, isn't it? But not for teachers.
Well, I mean, certainly when I was a teacher, it was a very exciting part for me to be looking forward to. As a parent now, you know, being off for the summer, there was kind of a nice transition to have my son heading back to school, free up my time a little bit. But there's a lot that I miss. But you know, this is, our audience might be thinking, what do two guys know about going back to school?
See, that's the frustration part, is that many dads now have taken on a lot more responsibility with their children. My 4 kids, Jarrett's 1 child, David.
But he's like 4.
Yeah,
so
he is definitely
has
like
the energy
4.
level of 4
But
children.
Anastasia's like 4 too, so I'm at 8. So I mean, so basically, it's exciting to talk about this. But I think we're going to take a perspective. We've had a lot of experts on. If you've watched the network and listened to the network, we've covered some of these topics before. But as parents out there, we always need review. So now we're starting this school year. We've talked about parent-teacher conferences on this television show, yet we've not talked about the first days of school and what's important, and kind of review things. And hopefully this is something that people can go back to every year, Jarrett. That's what my hope is.
Well, certainly. And when you have an easygoing child, if you're a parent of an easygoing child who transitions well, handles all the adversity.
There's no children
right,
like that.
they might want to, they're still going to want to listen in, but it might not directly refer to them. When you have a child that is high energy, has a great deal of perhaps even a little bit of anxiety, if you can have anxiety at 6 and 7 years of age, this is definitely the show for our audience out there, because what we're really going to focus on are all the things, all the suggestions, all the advice that you can meet those challenges really head on and start them even a few days before school, which is exactly what we did with my son, Davey, and then move gradually into what the expectations are for the school year.
So let's go into specifically the beginning part of this, and this is back to school shopping. A lot of you've already heard about this, but I think maybe if you've not done this, to jot down with a pen and paper and say, have I prepared myself in this way? We're not going to cover it for a long period of time because the show will air very, very soon, and then they can go into these things. But back to school, maybe things I should think about next year. One thing is, Jarrett, I think sometimes we purchase things too quickly before the school year starts, and I think we buy too many school supplies, in my opinion, and that's a shout out to many teachers out there with their unbelievable exorbitant lists of things we need to purchase, especially when you're talking about a private school, that we really don't need all those things. And it's a business. You're feeding into a business that's probably, as good old Donald Trump would say, $1 billion business. That is
pretty good.
That's education. So what would you say in yourself about purchasing those back to school items? When do you wait to do that, Jarrett? When's the time?
Well, we always wait for the teacher's mailing to come to us so that we have an idea of what we're looking for. But we're a big family that believes in recycle and reuse.
See, I like hearing that.
So when we get that list from the teacher, we're going through our house, and we actually have a bin where my son has all of his art supplies and all the things that he uses to make crafts, his thank you notes for his big birthday party that was in August that was just wonderful.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but we look at that list and we say, okay, what are we going to be able to go to that bin and use? And so things like colored pencils and markers, if those are not being supplied by the school, take a look at what you already have in your inventory, and you might find that you may be able to just go right to there and grab those. The other thing I would suggest is whatever you can buy at a discount store, definitely do that. Things like markers, colored pencils, I would suggest, and this is from experience as a teacher and a parent, go with the higher end product, and that means you can still look at a discount store, but when you have a 6-year-old who is easily frustrated, you want him to be able to, or her, to be able to sharpen those pencils, those colored pencils, those lead pencils, without them cracking, without them breaking. And the lower end, they're not going to do that. That's a specific tip to our audience right there. Definitely pay the extra money, go with those higher end products, and you'll find that they will last much longer. My son's colored pencils, we were able to go right back to his inventory from last year, pull those out, and he had a nice supply of colored pencils, markers, and even scissors. One other tip I have for parents is save the marker caps.
Right.
Keep them. When the marker dries out, throw away the marker, but use that cap, because you'll find that your child is going to lose those caps, and now you're going to have a replacement right there. And I know that's small,
that's a great
but
pick.
Those are things that, as what we call in our house, recycle, reuse, and keep doing it every day. We save our boxes, any kind of baggies that you might have with a nice zippered. And here's another suggestion to the parents. Definitely go out and spend a little bit of extra money for the higher end baggies, especially the ones with, even though they'll close, but you want to get the zipper one, because the small fingers of a early childhood, early toddler, or early childhood, 6, 7 years of age, they're not going to be able to really close those. Again, that causes frustration with especially a high-energy child, ADHD child. You want to limit any opportunities that will cause frustration.
What's very interesting when we go ahead and go through this process of getting all this, people say, well, it already happened. Well, guess what? Maybe you can make a mental note and say, how stressful was it for you, parents out there? And what is important? Allow your child choice in this process. Have them go. Not, okay, we're going to go shopping 25 different places, and you're not picking out a thing, because when they have ownership, it's going to lead a lot to our next strategies, Jared. Because if they take ownership, and Bill Corbett from Cooperative Kids, that's on this network, talks about this all the time, ownership is the key.
Right, and ownership is critical in this, again, especially when you have a child that, if you have the easygoing child, these things aren't necessarily going to matter. But when you have a child that is anxious about the school year, anything that you can do as a parent that will help that child feel a part of the transition, feel a little bit of that, as you described, ownership. So you're out at the store and you're looking at some folders or some binders, something for that child that the child may need to keep their things in. Provide just 2 or 3 choices. Hey, look what I'm seeing over here. What do you think about this? Oh, I want that one over there. I don't think I can go with that one. But we have a whole bunch of choices right here. And you may be a parent of a child who is listening or watching right now, and you may say, well, my child's going to continue to go over with what they want. Keep redirecting them to the options you have provided. It will work, and your child will feel like that they've been a big part of that process.
So the process begins. You already are in school. One of the things is you should prepare for school by getting them up earlier. If you didn't do that, you can check a lot of our podcasts out. We talk about that, so check it out. But now it's the school year. It starts the first week of school. I already am seeing the first week. Our school does half days. What's a half day? An absolute waste of time. That's a shout out to a lot of Diocese of Pittsburgh schools out there, that it's an absolute waste of time. Please get rid of the half day. They just give them a full day, please. Please. Maybe we can have a board meeting on this or something, because it doesn't work.
Because a full day or a day off?
No. The day off might be a good idea. Mm-hmm. No, but let's talk about specifically enough. The first full day comes, they don't want to go to bed on a certain time. They're just different struggle. The second day comes, and now it finally sets in.
Well,
I'm in school.
That's why we start the process in my home and on our advice shows that we have that can be found all over the radio. That's why we start the process, and I always advise parents, start the process at least 3 or 4 days prior to the school year. In my house, we started earlier. So that means gradually moving towards an earlier bedtime. So now it's the middle of August. You have 2 weeks before the first day of school. If your child has been staying up until 9 o'clock, you're gradually moving that bedtime sooner, 10 minutes, exactly. 10 minutes, until you're at the bedtime you want. For us, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock. So we gradually, my son goes to bed mostly around that time, even in the summer. But 8:30 is when we're looking to get into bed. So we gradually move that forward. Not a big jump. Your child is not. Your child will most likely lay in bed and be wide awake if you try to make that jump on the very first day. So move that time forward. Think about the process you want. Some parents, they have their child showering in the morning or bathing in the morning. Some parents look to do it at night. Our house, we're doing it in the evening. So we're including that in the transition towards bedtime. That goes a little bit earlier. Here's something that we really had to do as part of my son's routine. And being someone who specializes in early intervention, ADHD, behavioral modification, during the summer, routines get much more relaxed. But at the school year, our son chooses his clothing the night before.
That's good.
Now, when you have a strong-willed child like mine, he wants to just choose from the whole closet of clothing.
Right.
That isn't going to work. It would work for me, but my wife thinks that my son's clothes should match and should have some sense of an ensemble. I would give him free rein. That doesn't work for my wife. So here's what we do. We lay out 3 pair of shorts, and we've talked about this. There's going to be a segment of our audience that will say, well, that's just too much. I don't think that I can do it, nor do I think my child should have that. Right. But I'm suggesting if this is challenging in any way, give your child some ownership, some choices. Here's 3 pair of pants, shorts. Here's 3 shirts. Well, which one do you think there? Well, I don't want to wear any of those. Well, we're going to choose from here.
Right, exactly.
And my son, we started this 2 weeks ago before the school year started. He definitely challenged us. But now we're at a place where he's now choosing them and waking up the next morning, throwing them on all on his own and coming in.
Great, fantastic tip. And I can't believe already we're about to take a break. But Jared, I think what we're going to talk about now is specifically the relationship between the school and the parents. We've talked about certain routines. I think that's fantastic. We can even address this on another show about parenting and getting your child ready for school. Now getting up in the morning, what to do then, and then the process of communication. How do we make sure that the first in-service or an open house is a success? How do we make sure that we're completely involved with the teachers so that no issues come up from that process? So when we get back, Jared, we'll talk about those things. You're watching Total Education with Neil and my great co-host Jared as we're talking about back to school, what to do to make sure your children have a great experience. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hello everyone, I am Fiore, host and producer of Outtakes with Fiore here on BPTV, and it's not going to be too long. Short period of weeks before Outtakes celebrates its 500th episode. Now, in the research I've done, 500th episode is going to be a milestone not only for BPTV, but also for film review shows all across the nation. And we'd like you to be a part of it. If you've been a fan of the show for a good number of years, or if you've been a recent fan, we're inviting you to be part of the 500th episode show. All you need to do is give station director Dave Cable a call at this number, 412-831-3304. That's 412-831-3304, and you can come down to the studio and make your own taped greeting that will be part of the 500th episode. I know I'm going to be there. It's a milestone. Why don't you be part of it too? Call Dave Cable today at 412-831-3304.
Hi, my name is Akon.
Hi, my name is Alex Barker, the Amazing!
I'm Jacob Wagner.
Hi, I'm Austin.
This is Scout 350, and you're watching BPTV. Isn't that awesome?
With Neil. I'm the host, Neil Haley. Again, my website, TotalTutor.net, and also Twitter, Total Tutor. I know a lot of Pittsburgh people are not into Twitter yet, but you can also look at hashtag Total Education. We're going to start tweeting out when the television show airs locally and also nationally, so it's very interesting. And I'm with my co-host, Jared. We're talking about back to school, the most wonderful time of the year. It's not anymore for me, but it was when I was free, but I'm not free, and we'll talk about that in another show, in another episode. And I'm with Jared, and Jared, we're talking about back to school. Tremendous ideas about getting those clothes out, because this is something that moms and dads dread. The evening, after dinner, making sure they go to bed, all these different things. We can do that in our parenting show or advice show. But we're talking about the morning, and how we make sure our children, or Jared's child, is ready. I'm going to ask him a question about specifically the morning. Do you set the alarm at a time where if you only have a couple seconds, you're going to be running out the door? That's not a good idea, right, Jared? You kind of, when you set that alarm, you make sure that there's a lot of time, because you're a very prompt person, being a teacher, and you're always prompt or before.
I was going
exactly.
to say, I was a teacher that was there and hours before the school day started. For me, it is about preparation, and it's the same thing with our son. You don't want to wake them up too early.
Right.
An hour should be sufficient. So if the bus arrives, at 8:30, 8:45, I think you could go as a therapist. I would advise parents go with about 60 minutes. I wouldn't cut it shorter than that. If your child is bathing or showering in the morning, you're definitely going to want to do it earlier. Mm. But children need their sleep.
Right.
So I would absolutely suggest 60 minutes prior to the bus coming, not the school day starting,
right.
but the bus coming,
right.
so that if you have any challenges, if you have a grumpy child one morning or 3 mornings out of the week, you can address those challenges. You can give them time to just lay in bed, kind of ease themselves into a transition. 60 minutes is plenty. Gives you plenty of time to get downstairs or move over to the kitchen if you're in a certain kind of ranch house and have breakfast together. So that you can talk about what that day is going to be like, or just sit there together. That can be a wonderful experience, just having silence and having you and your child just at the table and enjoying just that personal time together, even if there isn't any conversation.
It's a great point. And then also with breakfast, you want to have breakfast. I know that a lot of schools offer breakfast when you get there. But if you give them that time to digest that food, that's going to help more of alertness and everything. I know it's important to feed kids at school if there's not the opportunity. Right. Like the moms, dads might have to get up earlier, get to work earlier, where they have even a before school program. But the luxury that Jared and I have, that's not the case. So basically, that's the big thing. So let's look at also when you talk about that breakfast time and what to do during breakfast. Is this a time that you believe that they should be doing any more homework? You think no.
Absolutely not. In fact, you don't have time to do that. And an hour, 60 minutes is absolutely not enough time to do it. And it adds for parents one more challenge. And we those in the audience that have teenagers know that teenagers are famous for trying to do the homework in the morning, and we know that it doesn't work. Let's set that pattern now. when you have that kindergarten, first grade, second grade child. Set that pattern now. That'll be an argument for another show whether we should have homework in elementary school. But since everyone does it, we know that it's something that parents have to face. Avoid homework, avoid anything that really is beyond just getting ready for the morning and showing your child that this is the process that we do to make sure we're prepared, fed, cleaned, having your teeth brushed, and you're ready to head off to school. Making sure you have everything in your child's backpack. We do that the night before, but we always go through one more run through when we have before we walk down to the bus stop.
Well, absolutely. Great points you're making on that.
Stay away from homework because it opens an opportunity for negative interactions with the parent and the child. Let everything be positive in the morning. Believe it or not, and my child cannot express this right now, but I think there is some anxiety, especially in that first week of school, of getting ready, walking down to the bus stop. Are you going to be able to sit by your friend? What's going to happen once you get to school? All those things are present in that child's life. So let's limit any additional challenges.
And so far we're talking more the parent end, and I want to get definitely into the communication end, but I think that after breakfast you get them out the door. If there is a real, things aren't going well time-wise, please do not let your kids see that you're getting stressed out. Because if that happens, they're going to take that all the way to their school day, and it's going to, and their work's going to suffer in school. Because
absolutely, if they're shouting, yelling, I like to use the term nagging. If all of those are going on in the morning, your child's going to put that in their backpack with them, and it's going to go to school.
And what happens when it goes to school? As a teacher, what did you see with those
depending,
baggage?
Sure, I could, when I was sitting at my desk or at the door welcoming students as they were entering, which was one of my favorite things to do, I could see the expressions on the children's faces, those that had a good morning, those children that found themselves perhaps scolded, punished, rushed. They came in with a different attitude.
The book bag, how they get the book bag out, all those different things. That'd be great tips for teachers that we could provide of how good you have to start out the day when they enter the classroom. Everything's about routines and procedures in life, guys. It's not a situation where, oh, well, we'll just do this, or, oh, maybe get to that. Trust me, you are creating an environment the kids don't want to be around.
Well,
adults don't want to be around either.
That's an interesting point, and let's just touch briefly on the half day. And a half day within the school, that can literally throw off everything that you have worked on as a parent in getting ready. Maybe not the morning routine, but certainly what happens in the afternoon. So, just to tie that back to what we were discussing with the value, if there is any of a half day, I'd rather see a day off, because then you can go back to your vacation day routine. Or
what about your good old 2-hour delays for snow? I can't stand 2-hour delays, but I don't think I'll mind them now. But again, because of my change, but I'll tell you later about that change. So let's go right to the process. Off to school they go. We're going to talk about when they get home, because this is going to be, we have to be the greatest investigators in the world. We have to watch and observe every little thing, because our kids aren't going to tell us everything. Even in second grade, if they're being bullied, if they're having a bad situation, a lot of times they want to keep this closed because they don't want to upset mom or dad. So it's our job to investigate the day, because if you think, oh yeah, everything's perfect, you might have had a bad day at work. Well, trust me, they might have a bad day at school. So at the beginning of the year, when they get home, if you have the luxury to be there, sometimes we don't, but we could consider the beginning of the day 6 o'clock this evening, after you pick them up from after school program. It's a good time to have that conversation and find out what's going on in school, even if they seem like they don't want to do it, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, you may find that your child does not seemingly want to talk about the school day when they get off the bus. Again, as a suggestion here, try to avoid the interrogation method. Even though the heart is in the right place when the parents are doing this, try to avoid the bright lights and
let them talk.
The question and answer. So again, I'm going to offer some suggestions that I've provided for parents over the years with ADHD children, oppositional children. Again, my own child, here's what we do. We meet him at the bus on days that we're able to do that. We walk up. We let him guide the conversation. If he's ready to tell us about the day, we're ready to hear about it. But we're not going to promote any question and answering sessions. So we get off the bus. We're walking back, short walk to our house. And here's what I suggest to families. This is the perfect opportunity to have the snack.
Yes.
For our child, he gets home. For Davey, he gets home at 4 o'clock. We're walking back, and I'm already promoting, wow, my belly's a little empty. I'm wondering what I'm going to have for a snack when we get to the house. So I'm already promoting it. Sometimes my son will be, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. But we're still going to go there anyway. Here's really why we do it. We get the belly a little bit fuller, and now we're pulling out the homework. I wish our school district didn't have homework. But I can wish all I wanted. It isn't going to happen. But we get into our dining room table, 4 o'clock. We're now have the snack ready or preparing it. I give my son a choice, 2 or 3 options. But the real reason we do the snack is so now we can pull out the backpack, pull out the binder, see what the homework is. On those fortunate days where there's no homework, guess what? He still stays at that table and has snack. That's when we're opening the pathways for conversation.
So you're allowing them. And this is another thing. I cannot stand being interrogated at all as well. About what did I do? What was wrong? What was this? What was that? We all know this, dads. What happens in certain ways. We all know what the certain situation that's going on. And what the problem is and how we're dealing with it. Then what happens, Jarrett, from that process is when you're interrogated, they shut down. But if you're allowing them, instead of being an interrogator, we need to be an investigator. So look at the word investigate, not interrogate. Because an investigator, let me see, how's he look right now? How does she look? Is she happy? Is she excited to talk about her
Right.
day?
Is she even going, he or she even going to tell us about that day? Do we think they want
do we
to
see that she's
talk
upset
about that?
or he's upset? If we do, we ask, do you want to talk about it? Is this something that really is on your mind that you want to see and do and go for? And when you see that process, you say to yourself, okay, this is what we got to do next. And that's such a key component, Jarrett. So I guess when we get back, we're going to really go into more specifics on, again, the whole process of how we investigate a little bit more. Once we find out and uncover things that are not very comfortable, and then the relationships with the teachers. Because, Jarrett, I know we've had great relationships with certain teachers, but other ones we just say, what are they doing in the business? And it's just like any job, any profession in the world, but it's so important to start now, not start 6 weeks in, not start 8 weeks in. And if you need a tutor, it's not the time to wait. Let's wait till Christmas. Let's wait to New Year's. Let's get it done now so that we are going to eliminate that stress. It might be a little bit on the pocketbook, but we're going to eliminate that stress. So when we get back, more Total Education with Neil and Jarrett. We're going to talk more about back to school. We'll be back in just a moment.
BPTV. Come volunteer. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't be here.
BPTV. Come on in, make a show. It's still fun after all these years.
We're back to Total Education with Neil, with Jared, and we're talking back to school. One of the places very soon, just watch you on Facebook. We'll have a fan page very, very soon, Total Education with Neil, the television show. And I'm excited to do that because I want to provide a great platform to really talk about the fun things we're talking about and get that parent engagement, get those questions coming to us, because we have advice shows, we have everything at TotalTutor.net, but also Twitter, Total Tutor, and you can see the hashtag Total Education as I'm using that as the hashtag for conversations, and I might even put Total Education Network, because someone else has that hashtag, and they don't really post interesting things. So let's go back into our conversation, Jarrett. You're laughing about hashtags because you're like, this is just something you don't get.
I'm just glad my wife is on Facebook, so I'm able to connect with all of these.
Why aren't you on Facebook? That's what everyone's saying.
I know, and
are we gonna have a Facebook fan page soon for you?
Well, as soon as I actually make a Facebook page, I will absolutely do that. And you know, we've talked about this. I'm not a technophobe. You know, I do a lot of really neat things with my son and technology and movies that we make and music with them. So it's just, I just never have caught on to the whole social media thing.
Well, you better, because it's, again, the way it's happening. I think websites are becoming obsolete. I think that the fan page, if you want to connect with a bunch of people in a network, that's the best thing to do. A website is kind of informational. You might want to utilize it in certain aspects, but I guarantee people stay on websites maybe 1 minute. They'll stay on Facebook 10, 20 minutes. They'll stay on Instagram. We're just a fast-moving society, so let's go right into the next fast topic.
And even in education, that is critical, is the use of technology, because it's how you're going to communicate with your teacher, your child's teachers, mostly through email, checking out the school's website, seeing what the homework is on there. So yes, there's no question that part of technology, going over the internet and the web is absolutely going to be a critical role in providing an easier life for the parents.
So let's go into specifically, we're still in this investigation process. Right. There are a lot of red flags that come out very quickly when they get to school. Right. Which again makes me a huge advocate for homeschooling, which Jason, the public school guy, would say absolutely not. I see my kids now, so I guess I kind of will say I am watching my youngest ones, and when I pull out the books and we start to do certain things or replay and education, their eyes light up. Sometimes school environments are difficult, so catching these things early is going to lead to a lot of stop these problems. When we interrogate, they shut down. Right. And when we investigate.
Here's what I want to address specifically to our audience here. We know this, but there is just so much research that is shown. Think about how long a child is at school. If that child is going to morning care, they're there maybe as early as 7:30. If they have to stay for aftercare, and this is certainly not a criticism of parents. We do what we have to do. Right. They could be there for 10 hours, 10, maybe even 12 hours in a single day. That is a tremendous amount of stress, mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress for that child. They may be so completely tired by the time they get back to your house, both emotionally and physically. And yet, if you have a 6 or 7 year old, they may not be able to even indicate that to you in a certain way, other than not talking, being grumpy, seeming to be moody. But here's what I want to address to our audience, and that is that there's just so much stress that is going on within your child. Now, if they've had a bad day at school, that's additional stress. So that's why we want to avoid the interrogation. We love doing our interviews on this television station and our radio station. We never interrogate a person a guest that visits us.
I do on some shows. I interrogate,
but we do investigate. We do facilitate.
Yes,
and that's what this is what I'm saying to parents. Try that method. I can give you a true example that happened yesterday. And the first 2 weeks for my son in school are always challenging. And this is going back to kindergarten. It takes him time to get into the routine. He had an incident yesterday where on the playground he punched a classmate in the belly. We expect that. We don't want it to happen. But as a parent of a child like that, I'm usually happier when the call comes that says, your child has been injured. And I know that's terrible, but when we get the call from the school, my first thought is, I hope he didn't hurt somebody. I'm okay if somebody hurt him. I just hope he didn't hurt somebody.
Oh, wow.
But we did get that call. Principal was right on top of it, called us. But here's how my wife and we talked about it over the phone, and this is what we said. If our son wants to talk about it, we're going to allow him to do that. But we are not going to interrogate him because our son will get angry. He will shut down. He's not going to tell us about it unless he
tells you.
Wants to.
That's a great point.
And so we already had a plan. When we come back from the bus, we're not going to say, hey, got a call from the principal today. We're going to just approach it as any other day. Here's the other thing that I offer suggestions and advice for families. Whatever happens in school stays in school.
That is controversial in itself.
It is. So what I say to my wife and I have already come up with that plan is the school told us that they were punishing him. We don't need to add an additional punishment at home. They've done that. Here's why I say that. When my son has a consequence at home, I don't email the teacher or call the school and say, by the way, I want you to punish him or provide a consequence, take away his recess for something he did at home. Things that happen at school, allow the school to handle it. And I would say to our school districts and principals, don't expect parents to punish the child further for what has happened at school.
See, that's a challenge, and I would like to talk that on another show and in another time. But let's go back when you talked about investigate. You found out from the school, and we'll talk about the communication in the last segment, and we can see we can move on to this, but who knows next month how we'll go, because we have so many advice shows and so many topics on the Total Education Network. This is just a piece of the pie, of the gigantic Total Education pie that you can check out by going to TotalTutor.net. Now, let's say you didn't find out from the school, which is 9 times out of 10 you're not going to find out from the school unless your child hit somebody or is the one at fault. Not the one that's being punched, not the one that is being treated unfairly. If you see them sulking, I would go and say, is there anything we'd like to talk about? And if they say no, you let it go.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times if we just kind of pull, all it's going to lead us into problems. It's going to make the parents stressed out. And it could be as simple as someone said they didn't like me. And this is where I get frustrated and they say, oh, that's bullying. No, bullying is excluding. Bullying is being hurtful in words, but something is something, I don't like you. We don't know if your daughter or son said something really dumb that led to that. So that's where we don't want to get into this helicopter parent situation where we're hover over you. What is wrong? I'm so upset. What should I do? We can't do that.
Well, and you can't. And to reinforce what happened, my son didn't tell us about the events at school that day until 6:30 at night when we were already doing something else. And that's when he brought it up, and then that was, hey, did you happen to open my folder and see the envelope from the school? I'm like, yeah, I did see that. Anything you want to add about it? And his words were, I didn't hit first. Okay. I said, let's see if instead of hitting second, we can go and get some help.
Let me jump into this.
First.
What if he wasn't the one that hit first?
For me, it doesn't matter.
See, it doesn't matter. Okay, so
it doesn't matter.
You let the school handle it. You won't jump in.
For me, it was as a parent, as a behavioral therapist, the fact that he hit it didn't matter if it was second, first. Personally, I'm glad it was second because of the challenges we face, but hitting is hitting. So for us, we were still okay with that. The school's handling it, by taking away recess. I don't know if that's the best thing for a high-energy child, but they're handling it, and I'm going to reinforce that. But it was hours after even our initial snack and homework time that my son brought up the events. We didn't push it, and my wife and I had already decided if he doesn't talk about it at all, that's okay with us, because the school has handled it in the way that they see necessary. But here's the nice thing: when you take this approach, the approach of letting your child lead you, guide you into that direction, I think the majority of the time you'll find that your child will talk about it. Your child does want to talk about their school day. The nice thing about early childhood is that they're incredibly self-absorbed. The world revolves around them. They're going to want to tell you about the good parts of their day and the bad parts of their day.
At one point.
At any point. Could be when they're in the bathtub. Could be right before bed. But give them the opportunity to do that.
Exactly. And this is a surprise, and this is a surprise, I think, to all our viewers out there, that you allow the school to handle the problems and you don't punish them for those behaviors at home, which is not many people do that. And what if he was a severe behavior problem continually and that the school's measurements weren't working? Would you then step in and say, I got to punish?
Again, even there, I would be cautionary. Here's the thing that I want to stress. If your child is having behavior problems at school, most likely they're having behavior problems at home. You're going to be able to address those challenges through the daily routine. School days are very structured. The home life should have structure in it. Maybe not as much as a school day, but work through the structure of your home evening routine to build opportunities for success. And that's the key here. And as a therapist, this is what I always stress to families. You want to build success with your child. Not focus on the negatives, not focus on what they didn't do that day, but focus on what they did accomplish.
Absolutely. And for people that want to chime in, there's many different places: Twitter, Total Tutor, or nhaley@totaltutor.org. Send me an email now with questions that you have regarding this topic and suggestions for us, because we're not perfect. We don't know it all, and we don't consider ourselves experts in certain aspects. Well, now the part that I think back to school, we've talked so much about 75% of preparation back to school involves parents. The 25% that's very, very, very important, that a lot of parents see as 75% importance because they don't take those other measures, is the communication with the school. But if you start early and you show that you're involved, that you're doing the 75%, 9 times out of 10, the teachers and administrators will be behind you. But if you're not doing that 75% that Jarrett and I talked about in the first 3 segments, teachers are going to be less willing, administrators are going to be less willing to do it because you're not doing your job as a parent. All right, when we get back, more Total Education with Neil, and we'll be back in just a moment.
My name is Sarah.
And I'm Denise, and we're here at the Western Pennsylvania Humane Society.
We are here to tell you about our Girl Scout Gold Word project.
As you can see, these animals are very lovable, but there's a problem here at the Humane Society.
They do not have enough wet food to give to their animals.
And that's where you guys come in.
We are asking for your help through a generous donation to the Western Pennsylvania Humane Society. At this time, we have collected over 1,000 cans and donated them to the Humane Society, but they still need more. These animals need their food so they can continue to have healthy, full lives before they are adopted out to a loving home.
Another way you can help out is by adopting an animal from the shelter.
Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope that you have the consideration to remember the animals at the Western Pennsylvania Humane Society.
With Neil, with Jarrett, and you guys can see I'm pretty fired up in certain ways, but I'm free, meaning free away from my house because I'm there all day and I'm with children now. But that'll be for another topic, and who knows if it's next month's topic or 2 months from now. But I'll keep you abreast by listening to the show, going to TotalTutor.net or Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. And I want you to friend me on Facebook. I'll take any Facebook request. I want to continue to grow, and we're going to have, again, the Facebook fan page. It's exciting where I see the TV show. The 1-year anniversary here at Bethel Park, I think, is going to be in November. Can't believe it's already been a year. Thank again Dave Cable and all the great volunteers that make this so much fun going into a real live TV studio compared to my studio at my house, where sometimes I want to get out of my house, so I'm smiling at. And we're talking to Jarrett. Now we talk about the whole communication factor. A lot of parenting experts, a lot of educators, Jarrett, have told us communication with the teacher that you initiate very early and administration makes it a much better year than allowing them to be the ones that start the communication.
Yeah, there's no question. And by the way, this has been great fun. I've enjoyed my ride on the subway system and the train system to get out here. I really have enjoyed our time here in the studio. But yeah, communication, and that communication should start with the child, the letter that comes home to the child from the teacher. It's a great way. You've read that. Shoot a little email to the teacher saying, hey, you know, we got your letter. My son, daughter was very excited. We're already getting the supplies. Here's the best way to reach me, and what's the best way to reach you. You know, try that in an email. You know, the teacher might have a different method, but most likely teachers today are really responding to emails. It's a good way to address things that can be a little bit controversial, maybe a little bit of a conflict, right. But you can approach it in a way that says, do we need to talk about it further? You know, over the phone, in the classroom, you know, after school, before school, but addressing it before, or introducing yourself to the teacher before the school year starts, just through a little email.
And to say, and first of all, ask what means of communication they prefer, because teachers all prefer different things. They might like the note. I mean, the dreaded note, which I think it doesn't work anymore. We got to go into better communication, guys. Or, again, the phone call, or is it an email, or is it a text? Because, again, technology's changed in so many ways that the text message, a teacher would much rather receive a text message so they could say, everything's fine, don't worry about it. Because teachers are becoming so involved, the great teachers out there, and there are great teachers that want to communicate with parents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during the school year, and I commend them for that dedication. Because you have to, because it's such a great relationship, so that you don't have these nightmare days where you have to make 7 calls during your plan period. Right. Because if you're addressing those things earlier, you don't have to. Right. And that's so key. And then also about what you feel like you'd rather be contacted. Some people, Jared, it takes them 2 days to get back with an email. Me, it takes 5 minutes. Well, maybe an hour. But a text message will take 3 seconds to get back. So really, how do you want to get an answer fast? What's the best way? Picking up a call and calling me. Ask Jared, you're never going to ever get me on the phone. Why? I'm too busy. But a text message, you can connect with me very quickly. So explaining that process begins it before we go to open house. Now means of communication is, and also do that with the administrator as well. Hey, and especially the relationship, might be a new administrator. I want to let you know I'm completely supportive of what your discipline policy is and school policy. feel free anytime to communicate with me. Don't you agree?
Again, absolutely correct. By opening up the communication early, for parents to let the school know that you're available, and you're available really whenever they need it, because your child is the priority, and the learning atmosphere is the priority. So letting everyone involved at the school end that you're available. Here's the best way to contact me. Here's how would you like to be contacted? All of those are significant. It leads up, I think, to one word that we kind of missed out on here is honesty.
Yes.
It leads to an honest lines of communication, and that is so important for teachers to feel that they can honestly speak their mind to a parent, and for parents to be able to speak the truth to what they see happening with their child, and where they think the education is going, and even the behavior. But being able to approach things honestly is the best way to do that.
Honesty is the best policy.
Well, yes, it's been said before, but here it's important, because if you've developed a positive relationship, you can speak honestly without sounding as if you're criticizing.
And the good thing is you already see concern. Day one, get that meeting set up. Don't allow open house to be the time that you vent, because open house is not the time.
It isn't. You're right. Like tonight is curriculum night, open house at our son's school. If we have an opportunity, my wife and I will address some of the things that happened on the playground yesterday, but most likely that opportunity won't exist. And so, but going there and for open house and seeing what the teacher has already started in the classroom, being supportive. But if you have that chance to tell the teacher what direction you think the school year has already started, it's a great time to do it.
Absolutely. So the open house, not the time. Get that communication going. One thing you should do at open house is that they do open up for questions. So prepare yourself for open house. And the preparation is, what things do you feel that your child's not telling you?
Right.
Which is an open forum. It's not about my child. It's about the routines and procedures that the teachers have sent out that expect that yet you don't have clarity about. You know, and you know those stories.
Absolutely, and this is actually, if we have this opportunity, if questions are taken during the open house, my question will absolutely be about homework, what the teacher expects, from homework, how much time should be devoted to homework time. Here's something I learned as a teacher and a parent. If a teacher says homework should only take 20 minutes, you can expect 40 minutes to 50 minutes as a parent.
Yes.
Because especially if you have a challenging child.
Yes.
Second grade, that's way too long. First grade, way too long. In fact, I think all through elementary school, that's too much.
I decided we didn't not going to homework because we don't have time tonight.
Right.
We're good.
So, but my question will be what the teacher's expectations are regarding homework. That's the direction that my wife and I
Are they going to be dreading this? Are they going to know who you are and say, "Oh my gosh, have you heard the reputation of you?" No reputation.
No, not at all. The school knows that first of all, my son is in a wonderful school, and it's been that way for his first 2 years.
That's great.
Kindergarten and first grade. So they know that we are totally supportive. They know that I don't necessarily like every policy they have, but they know that we're going to support that policy. But again, questions in advance, that you're going to hopefully have answered. If they're not answered, just keep them in your pocket, and you know that they will be answered at another time. Teachers are usually pretty happy about meeting a parent before school or after school to have a 10-15 minute conversation.
And that's the key. And through that open house questions, that's when you're leading up to, if you have concerns before the first parent-teacher conference, you're already taking those notes and you're jotting those things down. And through that process, and maybe we will get to homework, who knows, with our time allotted, I just think that the open house, being prepared is so key, because you don't want to be there extra long. And then what they do, and they bombarded me when I was a teacher, and I'm sure they bombarded you right when the open house is over. There's a flock of parents that decided, I'm going to go set up my own parent-teacher conference with you right now, for 5 minutes.
Right after, it's just kind of like the autograph session that you see a lot of times with athletes. You know, they've finished their work and people are asking them for their autographs, and usually,
you know, that'll happen for us someday.
Right. And
exactly. I'm used to it already, but let's go ahead and continue that.
Usually they're pretty compliant, even if they don't
Our
necessarily
first book
want
signing.
to do it.
Our first, and then when our book's out, it'll be physically right here, and that'll be a tremendous goal.
Displayed nicely.
Displayed exactly. But I've already have 2 other books in the works I'm thinking about. But I have all the time in the world to do it, don't I?
Right, you do, absolutely. And that's why, for me as a parent, at the open house, I want to get home. I want to go home, see my son, let him know that we did what we did at the open house. I would say to parents, caregivers out there who will be watching our show, hold those questions, hold that inclination to meet right after the open house. Let it go home, give the teacher a chance to get home and rested and be ready for the school day.
And I would set up that meeting as
Absolutely.
quickly as possible if you're concerned, or a phone conversation. A phone conference call is the same thing as in person, because you're expressing what you're concerned about, and don't hold it in. Don't hammer them the first parent-teacher conference, because it's pretty much a quarter of the year's done and it's completed. And now with the frustrations, parents, of the new Common Core standards and all these different things, and I'm sad to say, even the Diocese of Pittsburgh has this Common Core standard push, and teaching to the test, there's no way of getting around it now. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like devoting all that time to standardized tests, make sure you voice that to the teachers and say, you know, it's not really an important thing to me.
Just not at the open house.
Not at the open house. Don't say this is a bunch. Go to a school board meeting and do that. I'm thinking of going to my district school board meeting and just sit in the back and then first time ask certain questions and just cause a huge uproar. That would be a lot of fun. And I'm sure my district would be so happy for me in that certain way. Maybe I got to run for school board, but I have all that time in the world.
I was simply going to say, I'm
go
not sure
ahead.
that's going to be an option for you.
I think when my kids are retired and can see me 50 years old, boom, kids retired. Well, I'll never retire. When again, they're old enough, that might be an awesome opportunity. I can see you as a school board member.
Yeah, I think so too. We have, our history has been that we've provided a great deal of advice, suggestions, not always conventional. In fact, I'd probably say most of the time
exactly
on the unconventional side, but we know it works. We've seen the results.
And unbelievably enough, we have run out of time. And that sounded almost like I was on one of those other shows.
We were caught off guard.
We have run out of time. It's almost sounded like Sean Hannity, which is your favorite host of all time. Now, basically, everyone remember to go to TotalTutor.net, Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. Get ready for the Facebook fan page for Total Education with Neil. I'm going to build that this weekend. And we'll just keep rocking and have fun. And I have no idea what we'll talk about next month just because it's a monthly show. Maybe someday it'll be a weekly show. You never know. We need to hear from you to know. So again, email me at haley@totaltutor.org. Have a great week. We'll talk next month. Good day, everyone.
change the skin they were born with and say they die for darker skin. Sadly, some actually do. Change your thinking, not your skin. Stop tanning. Learn more at spotskincancer.org.